Hello, and welcome back to English for You. I'm Seb.
I'm Nikki.
And we're still looking at our story article for this month, Pay It Forward. Okay, so Nikki, what do you remember from yesterday's story?
That there's a guy named Trevor, and he got this assignment, a project that he needs to make this world better.
Yes, he needs to make the world better.
Yeah, and he came up with an idea that he needs to help 3 people, and they don't need to pay him back.
Right, they don't need to pay him back, they need to pay it forward. Right, so when we pay something forward, someone does something good for us, and then we do something good for a third person.
Yes.
So Nikki helps me, and then I help my grandmother paint her house. I don't know. That would be paying it forward,
yes.
I guess. So we're going to rejoin Trevor now and see what's happening with his system, because it seems like Trevor is now going to put his system to the test. So let's find out what's happening in day 2.
Reading. Pay it forward. Trevor immediately helps out 3 struggling people, a homeless man, a lonely old lady, and his own mother. But the homeless man is arrested, the old lady passes away, and his mother makes more bad decisions. This leads Trevor to believe that his plan has failed. In reality, though, Trevor has made a difference. Although the 3 people's lives didn't permanently improve, they did pay forward his kindness. Before long, his system spreads across the country. Later, Trevor is invited to Washington, D.C. to meet the president. Trevor becomes famous, but he isn't satisfied with his efforts. He still believes he hasn't helped 3 people in a meaningful way. While he's in Washington, D.C., he notices 2 gay men being beaten up. When he tries to save them, he is stabbed by one of the attackers. Trevor dies shortly after. The tragedy of his death touches people around the world. Tens of thousands of people start paying it forward, and the world becomes a much kinder place.
Okay, so when we rejoin Trevor, he's putting his new system to the test. He's seeing if his system is going to work. Trevor immediately helps out 3 struggling people: a homeless man, a lonely old lady, and his own mother. Remember, his mother, Arlene, was struggling with alcoholism, and also she had a bad taste in men. So let's look at our first vocab word immediately before we get into all of that. Immediately is an adverb, and when we do something immediately, we do it at once. Trevor is excited to see if his system works, so he goes out straight away and looks for some people to help. If Trevor wasn't in a rush, though, and he took a really long time to help someone, we could say that Trevor eventually helped 3 people. Eventually is the opposite of immediately, and it means to do something after a lot of time has passed. So here is an example sentence using both eventually and immediately. After school, Emma was supposed to do her homework, but she was immediately distracted by her phone. Eventually, she realized that she was wasting her time. So there we can see that the moment she got home, she got distracted. She was like, oh, I should do my homework. Oh no, my phone.
And then, oh no.
Yeah, but she takes ages to decide that, oh, this is a waste of time. You know? So she immediately gets distracted and eventually does her homework.
接续上一次说 Trevor 要开始他的系统之后，他就马上去帮助3个苦苦挣扎的人，一位是游民，一个是孤独的老妇人，以及他自己的妈妈。那 immediately 是副词，马上、立刻 ，right away without waiting。那它的形容词是 immediate， 意思是立即的、立刻的。那相反的是刚刚 Seb 老师说的 eventually 是最后、最终的意思。例句说 Emma 本来在放学之后应该要写作业的，但她马上就被手机给分心了， 最后他也发现这样很浪费时间。But then the homeless man is arrested. The old lady passes away, and his mother makes more bad decisions. 但结果那位游民被逮捕了，然后老妇人 passes away 去世了，而他的妈妈又做了更多很糟的决定。Pass away 是去世过世，但是是一个比较礼貌的说法。It's a more polite way of saying someone is dead or that someone has died.
Right. So that looks like it's a bit of a problem for Trevor, right? Because none of the three people that he helped really paid it forward. Well, that's what he thinks. So the homeless man went to jail, the old lady passed away, and his mother made more bad decisions. Right. Now, his mother in particular kind of shows that it's not working because she makes bad decisions. Now, a decision, that's a noun, is a choice. It's a thing that we choose. A bad decision, then, is something that we choose to do that is incorrect or bad. In other words, Arlene carries on doing bad things. She hasn't become a better person because of Trevor's help. Some of you might know that there is a verb version of decision. When we decide something, we choose something. So we could also say, Arlene carried on deciding to do bad things. Now here's an example sentence using decision as we saw it in the article. Choosing which college you want to go to is a big decision, so take your time thinking it through.
Decision 是名词决定，那在这边他的妈妈做了一个 bad decision，就是一个不好的决定。他没有因为儿子的帮助而变成一个更好的人。Decision 的动词是 decide， 一样是决定。This means to choose something after thinking. And the article says this leads Trevor to believe that his plans has failed. 那发生了上面这些故事之后呢，便使得 Trevor 有了一个他计划失败了的看法。Lead somebody to do something 当中这个 lead 是动词，是引导，所以意思就是说引导，使得某一个人有一个看法，或是做出什么样的一个动作。
So, right, Trevor might feel pretty bad right now, but if only he knew what was really happening. Because the story says, in reality though, Trevor has made a difference. He's made a difference. Okay, so in reality. Reality is our next vocab word. It's a noun, and when we talk about reality, we mean things as they really are in the world, not how we imagine them to be or how we hope they will become. Often we use reality as part of an important phrase, in reality. This means actually, or the truth is. So Trevor thinks that his plan has failed, but actually it's working. In reality, he has helped improve the three people's lives. There are some similar phrases that we can use which are a bit like in reality as well. All of these start with the preposition in. So our first one is in theory. So the difference between in reality and in theory is that in theory is talking about the rules or on paper. So in theory, Trevor's plan should work. But when he tries it out, it doesn't work.
In reality, it doesn't work.
In reality, it doesn't work, yeah. So in theory and in reality are a bit different. In reality is also kind of similar to another phrase, in practice. And in practice just means when you do something. So in theory, our plan to make a big successful company seemed like a good one. But in practice, it didn't really work. We didn't get customers, we didn't make any money, the whole plan fell apart. So in theory and in practice. Let's look at an example sentence for in reality now. This town looks like a fun place to live, but the reality of life there is very different to what you see on social media.
In reality, 实际上，事实上，那 Trevor 是有产生影响的。Reality 是名词现实，也就是说我们现在生活在的这个世界，并不是抽象幻想的。It's not fiction, it's reality. So make a difference means to improve a situation，意思是产生有影响的，那或是对于某件事有极大的改善的。所以在这边 Trevor 以为他的计划失败了，但事实上是有所影响的。
Okay, so it seems like he is making a difference. The article explains why. Although the three people's lives didn't permanently improve, they did pay forward his kindness. Okay, so we've got our grammar point for today. Today's grammar point is a great one if you use the word but too much in your English. So although is a special word we use to mean that one thing is true, but another thing is true too. So let's look at how it works by first looking at an easy sentence with but. Joyce often eats bread, but she doesn't eat rice. Okay, so Joyce likes a sandwich, she hates chow fan. Okay, two things, okay? We join them with but because they're different. Here, though, we can actually make an although sentence by putting although at the start of the first clause and then removing the but in the middle. So our sentence becomes, although Joyce eats bread, she doesn't eat rice. So still the same meaning, just using different grammar. We could also use though instead of although. So though Joyce eats bread, she doesn't eat rice. That's also okay. A good thing about although and though is that as soon as a native English speaker hears you say them, they know you're going to say two things. So for this reason, the although clause can never stand on its own. We cannot say although Joyce eats bread, full stop. That doesn't make sense.
虽然这三个人的生命并没有永久的被改善，但是他们有把爱传下去。那本课的文法点就是 although， 一个从属连接词虽然的意思，我们也可以用 though 来代替。那要注意的是 although 或是 though 可以放在两个位置，一个是放在句首，那一个也可以放在句中。那但是放在句首的话，要注意后面这个子句前面要加一个逗号。那在接下来后面这句，我们还看到 permanently 这个字是副词永久的意思。It means always and forever. And the article goes on saying that before long, his system spreads across the country. 没多久，他的这个系统就扩展了整个国家。
So his system must be working really well then, if it's spreading across the country. Spread is a verb, and when something spreads from one place to another, it's in one place and then it starts being in a second place at the same time. So we often use spread to talk about diseases, something not so good. When COVID-19, 新冠肺炎, was first discovered, it was just in Wuhan. But then it spread around China and then it spread around other parts of the world. Yeah, it went everywhere. Spread doesn't just work for diseases, though. News can spread too. When Tsai Ing-wen won the election in January, news of her victory spread almost immediately around the country. Everybody knew very quickly about the fact that she was going to be president, so the news spread. Now let's look at an example sentence showing us how we can use spread. Bryony told a secret to her friend, and it spread around the whole school. Now everyone knows. Okay, so Bryony doesn't have a good friend.
Spread 是动词扩展、蔓延，像是之前的 COVID-19 就是蔓延的很快。那同样我们也可以说火势蔓延 ，the fire spread rapidly， 或是散布谣言 spread rumors。And the article says later, Trevor is invited to Washington D.C. to meet the president. 之后呢 ，Trevor 受邀至华盛顿来和总统见面。
Wow, okay, so things are going really, really well for Trevor and for his system. But he doesn't seem so happy with it.
Yeah.
The story says, Trevor becomes famous, but he isn't satisfied with his efforts. Now, satisfied is an adjective, and when we are satisfied with something, we are happy with it and we don't want more. If Trevor was satisfied with his project, then he would just stop trying to do any more good things.
He would be happy.
Just be happy and just be okay with how things are. However, he isn't satisfied. He still thinks he needs to help some people for his project to work. He doesn't know, actually, that one of the people he helped someone else before they did their next bad thing.
Yeah.
So we could say that Trevor is unsatisfied with what's happening. Let's look at another example, which is a little bit more relatable. Wendy got a good score on her test, and she is satisfied with her results now. Sometimes when we're not satisfied with something, we feel bad because it didn't meet our expectations. When that happens, we can also say that we feel disappointed or let down.
Trevor 之后变得很有名，但是他对于他的努力并不感到满足。Satisfy 是形容词，满足的、满意的。It means that we are happy and pleased. 那在这边 Trevor 并不感到满足，可能就是像 Seb 老师说的，他觉得失望。He feels disappointed because the article says he still believes he hasn't helped 3 people in a meaningful way. 他还是认为说他并没有有用地帮助到那3个人。
Okay, so meaningful is our last vocab word for today. It's an adjective, and when something is meaningful, it is important to someone or something. Trevor didn't just help people, he helped them in a way that really improved their lives. There was a lot of important meaning to what he did. Therefore, we can say that he helped them in a meaningful way. So let's look at an example for meaningful now. This book contains meaningful tips on how we can all help the planet.
Meaningful 是形容词，有用的、重要的。原本 meaning 意思是意义、意思，加了一个 full 就变成充满意义的。And the article says, while he's in Washington, D.C., he notices 2 gay men being beaten up. 当他在华盛顿的时候，他注意到了2个同性恋男子被殴打。Gay 是形容词，最初是有 happy 开心的意思，但最常见的意思指的是同性恋的人 homosexual.
So when he tries to save them, Trevor tries to, go and stop this from happening, and when he tries to save them, he is stabbed by one of the attackers. Trevor dies shortly after.
当他试着要救他们的时候，他被其中一名攻击者捅了一刀。He was stabbed. 不久之后，他就死掉了。Shortly after 就是不久之后。那把 after 换成 before，shortly before 就是不久之前。
The tragedy of his death touches people around the world. Tens of thousands of people start paying it forward, and the world becomes a much kinder place.
这个 tragedy 悲剧触动了世界各地人的心。Tragedy 是名词，惨事、不幸。那在这边指的就是他被人杀死的这件事情。那 tragedy 的形容词是 tragic. It means very sad, 很哀痛、悲伤的。那之后呢，数以万计的人就开始相传这个善举，让世界变成更好的地方。
All right, so that's the end of our story. It's kind of a bittersweet ending to it, A bittersweet ending is something that is very sad and a little bit happy at the same time.
But at least he leaves something.
Yeah, it's very sad what happens at the end, but there is a silver lining to it. The world becomes a better place. Okay, let's go to our For You Chat question, and then in day 3, we'll talk about some of the ideas in Pay It Forward.
For You Chat.
Okay, so our For You Chat question for today is, why don't people in real life show more kindness to strangers? Why are we distant with each other?
I think probably because most people are just busy with their own lives and they're more like occupied. They don't have time for like strangers and other people.
Yeah, that could definitely be a reason. I think also we tend to overthink things sometimes. If we see somebody's having a problem, we're like, or maybe they don't want me to get involved. It might make them feel like I'm being annoying or I'm pitying them, so I'll just let them deal with their problems, you know? But I don't think that always helps. I think sometimes we're thinking too much in our heads when we could be helping other people. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from this book, but we're going to talk about all of that in day 3. So join us tomorrow when we'll be talking about the ideas in Pay It Forward. Okay, for English for You, I'm Seb.
I'm Nikki.
And we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Pay it forward. Trevor immediately helps out 3 struggling people: a homeless man, a lonely old lady, and his own mother. But the homeless man is arrested, the old lady passes away, and his mother makes more bad decisions. This leads Trevor to believe that his plan has failed. In reality, though, Trevor has made a difference. Although the 3 people's lives didn't permanently improve, they did pay forward his kindness. Before long, his system spreads across the country. Later, Trevor is invited to Washington, D.C. to meet the president. Trevor becomes famous, but he isn't satisfied with his efforts. He still believes he hasn't helped 3 people in a meaningful way. While he's in Washington, D.C., he notices 2 gay men being beaten up. When he tries to save them, he is stabbed by one of the attackers. Trevor dies shortly after. The tragedy of his death touches people around the world. Tens of thousands of people start paying it forward, and the world becomes a much kinder place.
Vocabulary Review. Immediately. If you want to catch your train, you have to leave immediately. Decision. Oliver made the decision to break up with his girlfriend because he is moving to England. Reality. The president doesn't understand the reality of life in the poorer areas of the country. Spread. This music was only popular in London at first, but it spread to other cities around the world. Satisfied. Gemma didn't get the best grade in the class, but she's still satisfied with her good test results. Meaningful. This book is meaningful to me because the story is similar to my childhood.
智慧小补帖
Permanently. Gay.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net